Hello and welcome to the channel. Here we are with another easy tutorial, and we are going to talk about how to make easy bases. So simple sand bases done as easy as possible, and you just need two things. But first of all, just a reminder, this is usually a German channel, but I tend to do my hobby tutorials in English and German. So here we are, we have two compounds, which is dry ground of AK terrains, which is pretty good. You can use same from Green Stuff World or just Vallejo. You can even put some markings in there, as you see there, like tracks or whatsoever. And like simple decorative sand, you can buy that in any $1 store or whatever. It's just plain and simple. I tend to use, like for my tournament 40k armies, I even just use that sand. So I put on some glue, put the sand on, just colored it, dry brushed it, and put a tuft on it. That was it. So that said, it's pretty simple, but I want to make it look a bit more better, and therefore we're going to use dry ground diorama. You also don't need any additional glue with that because it dries on its own in like 24 hours. So for the stuff you need like something like this, a scraper or like a toothpick or whatever it's like comfortable for you. We are going to mix the dry ground and the sand, and therefore I will use this Green Stuff World small metal things here. You can use whatever you want, just have something where you can mix the paste together. And eventually when to base, like if a base is, if a miniature comes with an almost inbuilt base like this one here, I tend to glue it up front. Here I still have to scrap the plastic off, so it's not cleaned yet, it's just for the purpose of the video. So if the miniature comes with an own particular base, or you know, some miniatures even have a really scenic base to it, I will tend to glue them before I do the base. But in case you have just a plain miniature without anything on their feet, I recommend you to actually just prepare the bases up front and then use super glue to stick the miniatures on it later. But when the miniatures like this have a bit of base to them, it makes sense to implement them in the process. So first of all, the compound here is, yeah, like this. It's like a muddy paste, to be honest. You can just try and use some of it, and I will put this in here. And it's pretty simple. How much you want to do, it's completely up to you. You can use actually any dry ground component from any thing. It just happens to be AK, what I have here. So it's diorama paste. It takes 24 hours to dry out. So if you don't mix anything to it, it's pretty plain. So I use the sand and mix it together to give it a really natural structure. You could even put in some, if you put just a texture on the base, you can use like wheels or footprints or whatever and put them in there. And since it takes like 12 to 24 hours to dry out, you will have some really scenic stuff going on. For the purpose of this tutorial, we are just going to mix the paste of the AK terrain with the sand, and there you see you get a pretty natural texture to it in regard to the miniature scale. So, and there we are, simple as that. Mixing it together, and then you put it on the base. Simple. I use a toothpick for it, but you can use literally anything you have at hand, which makes your life easier, like a scraper like this, for example. If you have a plain base, if you have already a model on it, I recommend you to use a toothpick. As for the borders, it's really easy to go over the borders, and then you have to clean it up later. You can actually wait until it's dry, or you can just directly clean it up. It's not necessary like to, you could use like some you know, protection, like tape or whatsoever, to tape the corners, but it's not necessary. The edges of the base, I mean. And that's basically it, actually, simple as that. If you happen to have some leftover bits, whether it's like scenic bits, like skulls, like this one, it's a set by GW, for example, you can just glue it on. I recommend you to put the glue, like I recommend you to put the bits after you put the mixture on the base, because if you do it up front, I will show you, the smaller the bit, the bigger the chance that you will barely see what it is later on, because the pastry on its own, like the paste on its own, has a really own thickness to it. So yeah. If you want to use bigger pieces or bigger terrain stuff you want to work in there, glue it up front. If you want to just put a skull on it, just glue it after. But here I would recommend you to add some glue to it, just in order to make it stick a bit better. It's really just made for a simple and fast basing. And this is basically a day later, as you see, without the... here see what happens when you put the bit up front. It will be worked in. So without adding any glue to it, you will have a result like this. I worked a bit dirty here, so I have to clean up the edges of the bases right now. But that's actually not an issue at all, because you can just take some wooden tool or whatever it takes and just a bit of pressure and you will get rid of it. Yeah, to avoid this kind of work to be needed, you can just tape it around the edge of the base, but I think it's not worth it. So right now I base coated it with Chaos Black and a bit of gray, I think. So right now I'm using a couple of earthen tones. So really, as you see, ashen gray and some brown. What kind of tones you mix is really up to you, and some brighter thing. I'll use Administratum Gray. So what I use for the corners will be any black, really does the job. Right here I have Vallejo. And what I do now, I water down with water and medium, just mix the colors. The reason for that is I want to have a natural earth tone, and therefore I use like a bit of gray. Gray usually desaturates any other color you mix it with, so you can actually put it directly out of the pot if you want to have brighter or more saturated brown areas. You could also use yellow or whatever, green, whatever you want to display at your base. Right now I'm going for a dark grayish, blackish, brown surface, because I think that gives me, most likely for most of my armies, a most natural look, or a neutral look, as to say. And yeah, I'm just doing some, not even wet blending, I'm really just putting randomly, as you can see here on the right, randomly a mix of gray and brown, just to emphasize, yeah, dark gray earth, brownish earth. And you can achieve that by a bit of water, a bit of medium. Medium transfers the particles a bit better of the colors than water does. So I use a mix of both. And then I have 2 brown tones and 2 gray tones. And that's basically it. I mix them. And from time to time, if I want to have an area which is specifically more gray, I use gray directly out of the pot, or brown directly out of the pot. As you can see, it's a really fast process. You can use even an old brush to do it, or a wider brush to do it, and this is the result. So, so to speak, the thing with gluing miniatures first is you have to finish your bases after finishing the miniatures, and yeah, otherwise you will possibly have color drops on your completed bases. So it doesn't look really spectacular like this. Now it's dried, and you can see it's natural fade of colors, if you want to say so. It's pretty easy and pretty simple. As I said, it's more like I come from a tournament background to get my armies as quickly battle ready as possible. So I use Vallejo Black. Negro means black in Spanish. I use the brightest gray tone I have available in my palette, and the Rakata Flash. The two, which was actually my lighter brown also. So I use the brightest, like before I was mixing 4 to 5 colors, and now I use the brightest of those color, which was Administratum Gray, to actually dry brush it. So you can use a paper towel or just a cork, and to get rid of the colors in the brush. So you just really want to have a dry color rest in the brush, and then you can just dry brush over the base. And yes, you can see here, it's a pretty random effect. It's not like, you can, if you want to put more work into it, you can actually model with the paste you mixed earlier, but I like to keep it random because nature is random as well, most likely. And then you are going to dry brush. Here I tend to stick to the gray, but if you have really brown parts, you could use the Rakata Flash, which is like a beige tone, to add some depth to your dry brush as well. but be careful and always make sure that your brush is dry. So if you don't, you will just paint over your base. And now you can just do whatever you want actually to brushing in this case in terms of bases is more likely to get to work out the structure, right? So if I would like to, I could add the other color tone right now, but I'm pretty happy with this outcome, and that's basically it. I will continue with that. So it's a pretty quick process. Sorry, English is my second language or third language, but yeah, that's it. After that, I'm going to use some black. You could use Abaddon black if you use Citadel colors. I like the Vallejo black because it's a bit more shiny. You could even use a gloss or matte varnish after it to just go around the corners and make sure that you, either you want to have it glossy or you want to have it a bit more matte. You could use a varnish on it. The Vallejo is indeed on its own more glossy than the Abaddon black of Citadel. Here, be careful just not to paint over it. If you paint over it, you can always color correct with your other colors. Just brush over it again or whatever. But be careful when you do the baselines. If you are one of the breed that likes to have the edges of the bases in a specific color, like the base color itself, just use a mid-tone of your mixture you used before and paint the bases around that. I know people who don't do black edges on the bases. I think it's like a 50-50. So I prefer it like this because it has more display feel to it, even if I'm not a really good miniature painter on my own. So yeah, continue like that, and eventually I use brown tufts. You can use any tufts available by GW, Green Stuff World, AK, Vallejo, or whatever. And some of them stick on their own. Sometimes you need to add some glue to them to make sure that they stick. You could also wait and put the miniature on it before, but yeah, this is the result. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I use this method when I want to really get quickly to a result. And eventually you could also put, this is a work in progress miniature. It's oil colors, therefore it looks a bit weird right now because it's not completely dry. So you could put your miniature on that before. But yeah, you can add any effects to it. You can add more bits, however you like it. And that's a pretty easy process to make pretty simple sand bases in a blink of an eye. And yeah, pretty easy. Pretty straightforward and no big deal. So even if you're not a super talented artist or super talented in the hobby, you can come to a pretty good result with this method. It's pretty easy and just needs 2 or 3 things. Bye bye.